Welcome back, listeners, to the Cosmic Confluence podcast. I'm your host, Sana, as always. And as you all know, listeners, this is the space where we slow things down enough to hear what is actually moving beneath the surface. Now, today we are talking about inner calm, not as a mindset or something to fix, but as something that lives in the body, in memory, and in relationship to source. Now, a lot of conversations, listeners, honestly, about calm, it feel abstract, like, breathe more, let it go, be present. But then sometimes I personally feel that I'm not anxious just because I forgot to breathe. I'm exhausted. I may be burned out, or maybe spiritually disoriented, or maybe my real world problems are so much weighing heavier upon me that I do not even want to breathe. Like I've done everything right, but I still feel empty. So today we are going to all ask different question. What if calm is not something we achieve, but something we remember through our bodies? My guest today has spent 25 years guiding women through moments when life unravels and something deeper begins to speak. Sharon Ann Rose is a ceremonialist, author, and a shamanic priestess. She's also the author of Faces of the Mother, a feminine path to embodiment through ancient wisdom, archetypes, and soul fertility. And the beauty of her work is that it weaves feminine spirituality, archetypal wisdom, ancestral remembrance, and embodied ritual. She speaks to women who are outgrowing old identities or maybe facing burnout, grief, or transitions or spiritual longing that may have not a clear name yet. And listeners, she speaks from lived experience, from collapse, from rebuilding, and from listening to the body when the mind can no longer carry the load. So let's get to the conversation. And Sharon, welcome to Cosmic Confluence. And I'm really, really honored to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Sana. It's so nice to be here with you and just listening to you in your opening and some of the words and ways that you spoke about this topic. This causes me to have a big exhale and feel really glad to be here with you in this space.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And that really means a lot. And, uh, you know, sometimes this phrase and many of the conversations, discussions around inner calm or peace or mindfulness um, or positive thinking, I think many of our listeners, they struggle through this kind of a dilemma that I mean, already there is so much going on in my life. I do not have the time or energy to think about, or maybe get a checklist, or maybe do a complete overhaul just to make sure that I'm at peace. I do not know how to get onto that path to achieve that. And then when we talk about inner calm, it often, I mean, it sounds peaceful, it sounds soft, maybe aspirational, but in your work, Sharon, um, calm seems less about serenity and more about truthful presence in the body. So what is inner calm actually rooted in?
Mm, mm, Great entry point. Yeah, so calm, in our culture, we've actually been coming at it quite backwards, and we've been trying to force, manipulate, and manhandle our calm, which is just never going to work. You can't, like, it's like a tantruming child. You can't meet them with suddenly layering all these expectations and what they need to do to relax. When you're in a full blown out tantrum or whatever phrase you might use, in an adult, it may look very different. It might be, a true trauma response and dysregulation of the system and absolute fear, panic, and anxiety. You can't always like force your way back to, and you said it so beautifully. taking deep breaths. Like when you're panicked, you're panicked. And so it is this new relationship we cultivate with ourselves and with our honest experience. And I love that you bring that word forward. It is
Mm.
about being honest. And I don't think we can actually talk about inner calm without talking about things like self-love and self-care, but from a very different angle. And it is really coming, to be calm, to really allow this energy, which is in existence at all times in the planet. It's literally in the makeup, the soil, the air we breathe, all of it. It calm, the very energetic blueprint of it already exists. And so it also exists inside of us already. So I think, when we want to talk about inner calm and ask what it really is a stream of consciousness and energy already flowing through us. And so the work is not so much to try to figure out how to make it happen. It's to really appreciate ourselves where we are and realize by doing that, that starts to line up and begin to find partnership with the calm river that's already passing through our systems and being gifted to us by the universe, by, the environment itself.
Hmm. So it's already there within us, but we are not just aware about it.
Yeah, and I think most of us are aware of it because we all know what it feels. Calm for me and the way that I practice it really is a feeling state. It's something we can't pretend we don't know what it is. We know when we're calm, we know when we're not. And the way to turn towards it is not to shame ourselves and be like, "Oh my God, you're not calm again." Because
Mm.
it actually is natural to come in and out of that state. When we need to take action, we're not necessarily gonna always do it from the organic conditions of calmness. We're gonna do it often from activation. And calmness can be a part of that because we don't have to, do it from a place of extreme or intensity. We can do it from a pretty mellow place, take action. And, we also are gonna have to ignite some energy to propel us forth to take actions. And so shaming ourselves when we're not always in that, serene, placid lake state or the placid waters, so to speak, isn't beneficial. We are meant to experience many different, aspects and energies and emotions and feelings of ourselves. And that inner calm is something we can trust. The body in regulated state is always gonna come back to that. It's always gonna come back to that. We can allow that and we can trust that, and that really helps it to begin to take up more room in the natural cycle of our days.
Hmm. I think this is exactly where, especially, and like, most of the people would misunderstand calm, because they may feel like I'm already doing the inner work, but I do not feel like in that state of, calmness. And I think what I realized, Sharon, is that calm is not about feeling good all the time, but at least it's about being able to stay with yourself when things feel uncomfortable.
Mm, yes. Because, as in what we were speaking about beforehand, when we're not feeling well, when we're under the weather, that is not something off. It doesn't mean we're, bad and wrong and we did something that we shouldn't have. It means it's the acknowledgement of, oh, your system right now got a little overtaxed. And so it is very natural to then rest. And that's just a natural. You don't have to always be feeling perfectly healthy and on your game at all times. And so that is such a gorgeous, honoring when we just say, oh, I'm just not really feeling very well. And do you see like what a calmness we bring when we're with ourselves in that a little bit, off center, a little bit uncomfortable place? We're just honest about it. And I feel like calmness, another way to look at it is deeply appreciating and accepting where we are, like you said, at any given moment. And that can begin with the simple act and practice of acknowledging how our body is at any given time. And so if we're feeling really uncomfortable or, and it doesn't mean we have to sit there and explain this to others. It means we're doing that gentle inner acknowledgement of, ooh, for whatever reason right now, and I'm not literally meaning this, I'm giving it as an example. Like say I walked into a crowd of people and, I have a history of not feeling always calm when I'm in large groups, especially if I have to present or talk. I can feel quite nervous having a lot of focus on me. So it doesn't mean I go up in the front, though I have done this before and I begin my talk saying, I'm really uncomfortable right now. That can be helpful, but that calmness comes from me acknowledging that in myself of like, oh, sweetie, you really aren't very comfortable right now in this situation. And I turn towards that and I breathe for a moment or whatever to just acknowledge like, I'm here. I'm here with myself in the truth that I'm not comfortable right now. And then it helps to inform what I'm going to do next. And I might say, because that too leads to even more calmness of like, oh, and when I get up to start speaking, like, oh, it's not a usual place for me to feel really calm being, presenting in front of a group and then go on into the rest of my talk. So it just helps to inform us when we are true to what's actually going on inside of our bodies, and we just give it a gentle nod and a place to be real with ourselves.
Absolutely. And I think also it's such a beautiful way to kind of, have that human connection, not this super ideal that no, I'm not um nervous or I'm not scared. I am, but still I know that, I can I'm aware of it, I'm acknowledging it, and yet I can, navigate through this state.
Mm, yes, beautiful. Hmm.
And also, this is also just such a beautiful, kind of the word itself is beautiful. Like you speak often about embodiment as a gateway to source connection. Now, at the same time, many people, Sharon, use spiritual language to actually avoid the body, especially when, how grief or trauma, sometimes abuse, like how they manifest in our physical body. How can someone tell the difference between being spiritually connected and then being subtly disconnected from their body?
Mm, mm. Yeah, as you're speaking this question, I always really trust what's going on around me. So I'm looking out at the trees, and today it's very windy, so windy. So those trees are getting just shaken right now, and they're just blowing back and forth. And for me, embodiment is that expression. For me, spiritual connection is so beautifully role modeled by looking at these trees and the wind right now. And, I even as you were talking as well, I was just getting the image of somebody like running a marathon and they're exerting, like they're using their body. But so many times you'll hear an athlete saying at first, they're working really hard, but then suddenly they hit this place where they go into a zone and it's as if they're no longer exerting. And though I by no means am going to assume I know what these trees are feeling, because I don't. And I'm not even going to assume, do you know what I mean? But that they would use such things as language or words like feelings. But I just watched them as the wind stopped. And so there they went back to that, just steady, strong, solid place. And so I think these examples where I'm leading us to with this is this spiritual connection. We really connect to our source. It doesn't mean we're going to stop moving. It doesn't mean we're suddenly going to sit down in meditation, though we can do all those things. I think also, dance is a gorgeous example. There's a way that we still also find that still steady connection inside, even as we're moving. Even as these trees are getting knocked around, they're still deeply rooted. They're not getting, uprooted right now. They move in the wind and then they're coming back and they're moving again, getting tousled around and they're coming back. And so this is what I know, of spiritual connection or embodiment. Embodiment is very gritty in my experience. It is being not just willing, but just accepting this journey of life, like you spoke about. Everyone goes through deep trauma and grief and loss and sadness, and also amazing states of joy and happiness and excitement and fulfillment. And both of those, extremes, so to speak, we get revved up, we get tossed around, we get thrown down. And when we really come to a deep knowing and trust that there is this, going back to what we spoke about with inner calm, there is this current going through us. There is this rooted nature. We are held in the embrace and eternal connection with our source. It doesn't go away. We don't have to effort to return to that. Disconnection is simply us forgetting, as we will a million gazillion times throughout our lives, that we are always connected, just like these trees they're rooted in. And even when they get pulled out, it doesn't mean they're not still connected. It's just going to be connected in a different way to the earth. And it's the same for us. When we go through hardship, doesn't mean we're not connected. It simply is, do we remember it and then lean on it and like call out to it with everything we have to help us stabilize even more in the trying times? Or do we totally forget and think that we're, walking alone, isolated, without, the care of not just the universe, but our fellow kin and humanity?
So that's true. That's true. And you kind of mentioned that example, and that kind of makes me remember about a very recent example another guest had shared. Uh, especially around animals, like especially she was giving an example of a gazelle that even a gazelle is getting hunted by a predator or something, they would immediately change their state to running fast as they can. Um, they would have their own ways of, you know, um, managing those situations. Maybe they'll be having some unique techniques. And when the danger and when they realize that okay, the danger is now not as near as it was, they would again come back to their original state, eating food or looking for food, being in herd and community, enjoying and going here and there. So that kind of really brought me back, that conversation.
Yeah. And I love that example because I think we have really forgotten, and also culturally, we've kind of had that beaten out of us. And there's such this incredible stress to achieve inner calm.
Yeah.
And so, again, of this deeper understanding, we're going to play hard. We're also likely to fight pretty hard. That
Mm.
is a part of our nature. And when I say fight, I don't necessarily mean that we have to go at each other. I just mean the energy of like, we're going to know resistance. We're going to know needing to stand up for things that are really important in this world and in these times. And there's an energy of fight in that. And then we also can trust that we're going to come back to a calm, nourished sort of 0 point, still a point again. And we can work with that, just really naturally doing the things that we know we enjoy. Like I love to give the example of the animals, like they're eating, they're going to be playful, they're going to relax in the sun, they're going to, we can trust the things that make us feel good and safe and like we belong really are that kind of reset points that help us go, oh, yes, this is what helps me touch into that beautiful current of inner calm inside of me.
That's right. And Sharon, uh, when you talk about source, um, I feel that it's relational and it's also lived. So how do you define source connection in a way that does not require any belief, but then it requires presence?
Mm, mm. Yeah, I even felt a little emotional. I often do, even just when someone reflects back to me that we have this source. And I will be the first one to say I cannot define that for others. I just can't. I never will. And I know this is, again, so similar to the felt experience of inner calm. We all have a very personal sense of what it means to be connected to some kind of source energy. And I would define that as what we come from, just as simple as that. And again, turning towards nature as the example of role modeling, or also, if anyone has ever been in presence to a baby being born, you can feel palpably that this comes from something. Yeah. And so, without going into a lot of dogma or, spiritual or religious languaging, it is that of just this real deep honoring that we are connected to something we come from for the rest of our lives. That imprint doesn't go away. A flower, grows from a beautiful seed or a bulb. It's always connected to that. Even when it looks nothing like it anymore, it still came from that. And those blueprints, those DNA, strands and membranes, those energetic bonds and ties, they're just there. They're always there. And so that is what, I am referring to when I say our source connection. It is that vast and also that simple, that elegant, that distilled down is this is what you come from, your source.
Hmm. I think that is the reason that we as humans, we need to go back and understand the history of humanity, not civilization or countries or the conflicts, but more as a humanity, the beginnings, and then how humanity evolved, um, and and I think our cultures, they play such a vital role in kind of having that homecoming for all of us, like the planet itself, the Mother Earth itself.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, no, the beauty of the way, I mean, you kind of just left me speechless. And I think that's what our relationship with source does. It can just dissolve all language, all structure, down to this very refined understanding that we really belong to something. And it is important, I think, to create and craft an understanding of that. I do have my own personal definition of what that is. And certainly traditions, religious, spiritual, faith based, even scientific, they all have meaning making definitions of this incredible experience you just said of being, connected to the earth and beyond. And it's just important for us, especially when we have destabilizing moments and also every day. Every day. I mean, I feel like it's only getting amplified how important it is to just touch back in to our connection with our source many, many times throughout the day. To remember this, it's a very stabilizing, it's a regulating, and bringing it back around to that inner calm. There's a calmness that comes over it. If anyone ever has seen a young babe, using that as an example again, that baby, especially as it starts growing and all of its senses are starting to take in the beauty and wonder and curiosity of life, it reaches for that and it's excited, when different people go to pick that baby up and hold it, and it stares at the people's eyes, whoever's holding it, and it listens to those many different voices. But there's a moment when that baby suddenly gets a little bit panicked and they look around and they're like, "Where's my source connection?" And often it's translated as, "Where's my freaking mother?" I need those arms again. I need that kind of familiar, energetic blueprint and vibration again. And yes, it's the mother. It's literally the physical mother and her smell and her touch and her voice. All those things are going to regulate that sweet, sweet babe. And also, it's because she carries that blueprint of the source that this babe comes from. It was in her womb, it was in her body. And so that's going to regulate that sweet baby. And that's exactly what we're doing, 1,000 times a day. We're going out into life and so excited, but then suddenly we become a little bit overwhelmed and confused, like, who am I? What am I doing? I don't know what's going on, or I don't like this, and this is uncomfortable. And we're saying, like, where is my source? Where are you? I need your arms again. And that's that call to be like, oh, right. We can just honor that. We can honor how discombobulated we feel, how not calm we feel. And then that just saying that helps, that feeling once again to be remembered that, yeah, we do belong. We do come from a source and it is available to us in here.
Exactly, exactly. And I think the sensory experiences that you just shared, like, I think more than the calmness, I think we yearn for that safety, that maybe the smell of, uh, my mother wears sari, and there's a specific smell that I recognize. That particular smell instantly would trigger that, yes, I'm in her presence and I'm feeling that safety, that warmth, and yeah, that calmness. Even if I am aware that, there's so much going around in my life right now, but still, or maybe it could be um, in your favorite childhood memory, or maybe your favorite memory or place or food. Um, like, I find solace and comfort in uh, my mother cooks a special dish for me that she used to cook like when I was 5 or 6 years old. Like from that time, I remember, because that's the first memory that I have of myself. Um, so we're 5 years old, yeah. So, and yeah,
Oh, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's so rich, isn't it? It's a very sensory, um, as it's a sensory journey because inside of all those things you just spoke of, yes, they were environments that your mom was creating that you picked up on as a young one. But I love also what you just said of it really does return us, to this deeper memory of, oh, I come from something. I come from something, and that anchors us. And I mean, even more so, it just gives us a moment in time, space, and place to say, "Oh, yeah, I'm situated here. I have life, breath, love, and purpose. I was created to really be here and be held and be nourished and to be safe, safe in the body, safe in the heart, safe in the mind."
absolutely. Beautiful, beautiful. So Sharon, of course, it's my duty to ask a ritual that if listeners they would like to connect further with you, what would be the easiest medium?
Yes, I would love, love, love to connect with your listeners and continue these conversations that are so important to have. You can find me at my website. That's a good first point to start at. It's SharonAnnRose.com. And you can also find me not on tons of social media, but I'm on Instagram, I'm on SoundCloud, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on YouTube, all under Sharon Ann Rose.
Amazing. So, listeners, there you go. I'll have all the links, the details attached in the show notes, mentioned in the show notes. So, just refer to the description along with this podcast episode on whichever platform you listen to your shows to. And I think, you know, what particularly stands out to me in this conversation, listeners, is that calm is not something we perform. It is something that emerges when we stop abandoning ourselves. And that can be a bit surprising. It can be a bit challenging, but it's okay. It's fine. Just sit with it because there is no need to answer quickly, but just to listen for in their body, in your body. So, Sharon, thank you so much for this beautiful, beautiful reflection and conversation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Sana. You have such a gift of presence and really finding the essence of topics and conversations. I'm so grateful to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. And to all the listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. And like if this conversation has stirred something within you, let it stir. You do not need to resolve it today. And until next time, just keep listening to Cosmic Confluence. I'm your host, Sana, signing off. And take care of your mind, body, and your soul. Thank you.